What's up guys, it's Mia and this is So Girly Bags. In this video we're going to make a heart pillow. This is a very beginner sewing project. We're going to make it with this kid-friendly, my very own sewing machine. Let's get started. You can pause the video if you need time to catch up. Step 1, we're going to cut out the pattern. Use the piece of paper to cut out the pattern, then you're going to cut out your pattern pieces. And then once I cut out the pattern pieces onto the fabric, I'm going to use a disappearing ink marker and I'm going to mark 2 marks right on the right side at the bottom of the heart, just so I can know where to start and stop sewing, so that way I can leave an opening, so that way when we turn it inside out, the opening is going to be there so we can stuff the little pillow. Now I'm going to place the fabric right underneath the presser foot. I put the presser foot right at the edge of the fabric. I'm going to use the little lever in the back, the finger safeguard, and just pull it up to place the fabric underneath it, and then I'm going to pull it down just so that way the presser foot is going to be on top of the fabric. Once I got to the end of the heart where the point is at the very bottom, I stopped and then turned the fabric and then kept sewing. And then I'm going to use the on-off switch to start sewing. I have mine in the lower speed and I'm just going to press. To get started, I just went a few times and pressed it a couple times just so I can get started, but then I continuously held down the on-off button so that way it will continuously sew. And once you get to the center of the heart, you want to lift the lever in the back, then turn the fabric and then put the lever back down and then continue sewing in the direction you want to start sewing into. And then we're just going to go very slow until we get to one of the marks that we made with the disappearing ink marker. So normally when you sew and you get to the end of where you're sewing, you go forward and back a couple stitches just to lock in the stitches. With this little machine, I wasn't too sure how to do that. So what I did was I tried to do it and the machine got stuck. The thread was stuck in there. So if that happens, what I did was I just turned the wheel a couple times so that way I can lift the needle all the way up. And then I took the project off of the sewing machine. And then I just re-threaded the machine. I put the project back on and then I'm just going to continuously sew right at the beginning of where the marks are. And that way I'm going to lock in the stitches a little bit by just stitching over it a couple times. I'm sure there's a way to go forward and back on this little machine, but instead of doing that, I just decided to go over the stitches a couple times. And before I could start sewing again, the power stopped. So I decided to use the hand wheel and just sew a little bit with the hand wheel to make a few stitches. But then I decided to figure out, why did my power stop? The batteries was working just fine just a few minutes ago. So yeah, you may have to give it a couple love taps to get it going again. You don't want to break it or hit it hard, but after I tapped it a couple times, surprisingly, it started working again. It's pretty funny, but yeah, that's what I had to do to get it working. Not sure why, but that's what I had to do. Now I'm gonna just take the pins out. You don't really have to have pins in there. You can use safety pins if you feel like that's a little safer for kids. But now I'm just gonna turn it inside out. Usually after I turn a project inside out, I press it with an iron, but since this is a more kid-friendly project, you don't really need to press it. You can just kind of crease it with your finger and just make sure everything is pushed out nice and neatly. And then I stuck a pin in the opening just to keep it closed. I did press it with my fingers just to kind of crease it a little bit to make sure the edges of the fabric was tucked in all the way. But I'm going to take the safety pin out and grab the stuffing and then just start stuffing the little heart. You can use a little iron if you want to, but like I said, since this is a more kid-friendly project, you can skip this part. Or if you have a parent around and you want the parent, your mom or dad can press that little part for you. That's perfectly fine, but you can skip the ironing part altogether. And now that we have the stuffing, we can go ahead and stuff it. This stuffing came with this little sewing machine. It also came with 2 pieces of fabric, one in pink and blue. But I didn't use the fabric at all because it doesn't really feel like, if you are a parent helping your kid with this project, thick. You can use the fabric that it comes with. It's perfectly flexible at all. So I chose not to use it, and I just used some fabric that I had. And then after I stuffed it, I just closed the opening again with 2 pins. Once again, you can use safety pins if you like, but you just want to hold it together. And then I grabbed some thread and a needle. So this part, kids, if you have a needle that's not so sharp at the end, or mom or dad can help you with this part as well. But you want to just grab some thread and thread the needle. And then we're going to do a running stitch to close the opening. So when making a running stitch, I inserted the needle on one side of the fabric, and then I'm just going to bring it back through on the back side. But you want to focus on the all the way to the other end where you're opening, inserting the needle, and then because that's going to determine how long the stitch is. I'm going to make a knot to lock in that last stitch and make sure that the stitches don't come apart. But I'll show you how I did that. And that's where I made the knot to lock in that very last stitch before cutting the thread. You can also do a running stitch by just picking up a little piece of the fabric as you go along instead of pushing it through and then coming back through the other end. But since this is our first time sewing, we're gonna just work on our running stitch this way. But congratulations, you guys, you did it. You made your first little project. This little heart pillow is really cute. You can also maybe tie a little string on the side of it. You can put it on a Christmas tree if you like as your very first ornament that you sewed yourself. And if you are a beginner sewer and you really don't know where to start, I do have a free ebook that you can download. It's in the description of this video. This was so much fun and it's a great beginner project. So if you want more, watch the next video that's on screen and I'll see you there.